Hi, and welcome back to Plastic Models by Regular Dude and the next installment of the Viewer's Choice build number 2, the Eduard MiG-21 PFM. So where I left off last time, I finished up page 8 for the most part. I had to prime and paint the gear doors and the landing gear struts and the wheels, hubs, that kind of stuff. These parts I've still got off to the side. I've got the tire portion painted. Use NATO black, so those are ready to go. The landing gear bits have been primed. I'm going to wait to paint those until I paint something else the same color. And then we have the gear bay doors have been primed. And take note of the masking tape not peeling any of the primer or paint off. Styrylres primer is some good stuff, and so is the gloss Vallejo stuff. But anyway, the inside of the gear bay doors have been painted the interior color. The wheel portions have been, or the hubs have been painted in Tamiya X5 green. The instructions call for bright green. I don't have any of the that brand of paint, so I used Tamiya. And I repainted the nose cone with the same color. The other one was like too pale of a green. I wanted something a little brighter, just going off of photographs I've seen. So with that done, and while I'm waiting, because I'm not going to install the landing gear or gear bay doors until after the model is almost completely finished, as far as paint, decals and all that, just so I don't break them off and so I can weather it all together. It'll look uniform. All right, so this is done. So I also did these parts here, which are the this part right here, which was in 44, in 21, and in 26. That was painted the cockpit interior color with the flat black portions painted. I painted that part there, which oddly enough you cannot see hardly at all. It's right down in there, but it's painted. And then I installed M17, which is this cover here, and I put this PE30 photo etch part up there. So now I need to, the last part I need to do is I need to glue this N20 on here. So I'm gonna fish that out so I can get that glued on. Okay, I got that little teeny tiny N20 part glued on there. And just as a quick opinion piece here. Now that is a very small part, and it is molded nicely in styrene. Now they could have very well supplied that as a photo etch part, but that's a case where, you know, the styrene part, it's easier to work with, and it looks good, and there's no need for the teeny tininess of it. Sometimes photo etch, I think photo etch for photo etch sake is not really the best course of action, but that's my opinion. And you know, I do like some photo etch as long as it makes sense. So anyway, that was free. All right, so the next part is to start working on the seat, the ejection seat. So I'm going to cut out all these parts and get them all ready for assembly. All right, I've got the parts down and all, cut off and all cleaned up. So first part, D8, and on D8 there's a long rod and a shorter rod. So make sure you got that going the right direction. And it looks like it fits on these two pins right here. So looks something like that. just like that. Okay. Okay, so there's that. Then I'm assuming it's the seat back is next. I've already test fit that on here. There's a slot oblong protrusion there, and it fits on there just like that. So that looks pretty good. I think I'll put just a little dab of cement right there as well. Make sure it's on there good. What I'm going to do is I'm going to get these little sub-assemblies completed and then paint them, because it looks like in general, you know, most of the parts, like this is this here, all this is a neutral gray, and then these, I don't know what they are, they look like armrests or something, but those are also neutral gray, so I'll glue those in position. I'll get these parts that are neutral gray and get those painted. This top part here is light gray, so I'll just probably hand brush that, and that should take care of the painting. So I'll do it in sub-assemblies, that way I can get it painted the separate colors, not have to worry about masking anything. So we got that. Then the last part for this part here, the back of the seat, is D27, and it's got this flat portion here that fits into that recess right there. Whoops. Just like that. So I'll put a little dab of glue in there and then line it up. You know what, actually, there's a little bit of sprue gate left right there. Shave that off so it fits in there right and correctly. Just like that. Now it dropped into place a little better. Okay. Press it down, make sure that's good, make sure it's lined up. Okay, and that takes care of that part there. So next I need D19, which is right here. Okay, and that also has a part that fits into this slot here. Like that. Okay, so we got that. So D98, you know what I think I'm going to do? I think I'm going to go ahead and glue that on there, and after I spray it, then I'll brush paint that with the light gray. So let's find D98, which is this large piece here. Make sure this top looks good. Bottom I'm not concerned about because you're not even going to be able to see it as long as it fits. Okay, so that part fits right there like that. Oops. That's in place there. Fits nicely. Okay, so we got that, that, and that. So all that's complete. So next, I'm going to cut out the rest of these parts here and get them ready to cement together. Okay, I got D82 in place and I've got D87 in place, but I haven't applied the cement yet. So those aren't real positive as far as connection goes, or contact, or whatever you want to call it, but it fits good. Just make sure it's lined up properly. Okay, so I got those two on. So now I need to install these parts here, which fit on the sides, if I can get it to cooperate. Now, the nice thing is you don't have to rely on it just sticking on that little thing there, because that's very very close. All right, so I got those two parts on after much wailing and gnashing of teeth, but they're on. So D94, D90, and 88. And the nice thing is it's kind of hard to screw these up because they'll only fit one way. There's a groove along the edge here that fits right there. Okay, so put a little bit of the old cemento on here just to tack it in place. Make sure it's bottomed out properly. Okay, then apply some more cement to make sure it is a solid bond. Now, there's a lot of people, and I'm not one of them because I just can't do it. I don't think I can work fast enough. That'll put their cement on there and bobble around with their piece and cut it off and sand it and then stick it on. Well, I have a problem with it just evaporating way too quick, so that's why I do it like I do. I may use it to tack something in place, but I don't rely on that. I don't rely on that to hold it without adding some more. So I'm gonna do the same thing here. A little bit of that. This in place. Make sure it slides and bottoms out completely. And I don't hold it and do it on a piece this small, because if the glue seeps out, the cement, it could leave a fingerprint if it, you know, capillaries between my my finger and the part, which I've had happen before, and that makes me really sad. That I don't like it. Okay, so we got those parts in. Make sure they're kind of, I'm not sure if they're supposed to be 90 degrees, but that's what I'm doing them. So let that set up for a sec. I'll get these parts trimmed up. Okay, I got these parts trimmed up, so I'll put the, what I'm assuming is the seat in first. Okay, and then this part goes on the bottom. Make sure you get it facing the right direction. The smooth side and that little lip face up, so that goes like that. Now it's got a little bit of a kind of an angled bit here from coming, you know, being angled for ease to slide out of the mold, I'm assuming. So we'll scratch that flat so it'll fit into its location without any problems. Okay, let's see how that fits. Whoops. Alrighty then. Yeah, much better. So, I don't want to word. Okay, so I'll put that there. And then just like that. Since this is on the bottom, I'm not too worried about it marring the surface. I just want to make sure it sticks. Put some more on there like that. Make sure it's pressed in place. So, whoops, so we got that. Now, these foot pedal things or whatever they are go underneath here. Oh, can't, got it backwards. Now, as you can see here, the illustration doesn't show this upside down, so you don't know until you see the part that there's these flat areas here where that fits. But it's nice because they show you right here by this blue shading where to put your cement, or where the cement is going to attach. In this case, I'll do that. Make sure it's pressed in place and nice and level. And thusly. Alright, so you get that nice little seat situation like that. Alright. So all these parts are glued together. So now all I have to do is attach the back to the base as illustrated here. So let's take a look and see what that looks like. And be real careful you don't grab it and snap those crazy arm things off, because that would be a sad thing indeed. Okay, so that, yeah, that fits. That's a nice positive fit. This part fits behind, that part fits in the top, so it fits quite nicely. Now I want to, now see, here's a case where I was being lazy and I should have cleaned this part off right here. So now I got to try and do it with it on the part. So let that be a lesson to you. Don't be a knucklehead like I was and not clean that off, because that wouldn't have fit that great. Okay, so yeah, so that's a lesson. I did that on purpose just so I can show you what not to do. Okay, you guys buying that? Yeah, well, it ain't true. I screwed up. All right, so now let's try it. And yes, much better. See, look at that. It fits nice and flush and tight. Okay. So let's see, what's the best way to attack this? So this is what I'm going to do. I'm going to, whoops, don't want super glue. I'm going to put some adhesive back here, some cement back here. Okay, stick this in place like that. Hold it for a second. Then apply a little bit more along the back edges, thusly. And then put a little bit right there like that. Okay? Splendid. There it is. Tra-la. So now what I have to do is I have to install the photo etch seat belts. So that is really going to be fun, but I'm not going to do that until after I paint all of this. So I'm going to let this set up for a little bit. Put that aside so it can solidify real good. Once it does, then I can paint it, and I can paint the landing gear struts at the same time. Now the photo etch parts, wonderfully enough, are all pre-painted, so that I won't have to mess with. It'll just be a matter of gluing them in place. And I'll show you how I handle photo etch seat belts, you know, to get them to drape and all that kind of stuff. So, but that will come after the seat itself is painted. Okay, so put that aside, and we'll come back in a minute. All right, the seat cushions and back and the appropriate parts that need a light gray have been painted the light gray, and I've, you know, also sprayed the main part of the seat with the neutral gray. I got to put another coat on that, but I want to let it dry a little bit more. I've got the landing gear struts painted front and back, and got the silver part painted. So while I'm waiting for that stuff to dry to allow for another coat, I'm going to go ahead and start putting the wheels together themselves. So as you can see, I painted those the green color that I decided to use on the nose cone, which is Tamiya X5. And I'm going to use my gel super glue ultra control, because I don't want to mar any of the paint with the Tamiya. So this will work pretty good, I think. So we got that side. Put that in there like that. I'll check some here. Okay, so that fits in there nice. This is going to take some weathering business, I think, really well. I think it's going to look good, because the nice thing about the X series, it's not the XF, it's X, is it's glossy. So when you put washes on it, it works a lot better. You don't have to mess with putting a gloss coat on it or anything like that, so you get a nice your washes flow really well around it. Okay, so that looks pretty good. Now, in looking at this, I think, I didn't notice from the from the instructions, but it looks like there is one side might be a little bit deeper than the other side. So if you put it a certain way, like if you were to put this on one side, the back part of the hub, it might stick out too much in comparison to the other side. That's why I popped it off of that one. Because I think if you see, like on that side, the hub sticks up too far. But if I put it on this side, it sits more flush. So something to take note of when you're assembling these wheels. That's why it's always best to test fit first. So I'm going to do it one more time, make sure I got it on the right side. Yeah, that's the side right there. So it's more of this here gel business. Oh, come on. Sometimes it doesn't want to come off the toothpick. Alright, so there's that. And then this one. Okay, alright, so there's that. So now all I have to do is glue this part here onto this side here. And again, I'll use my gel. I could have actually glued that in place on this other part and painted it all together, but I didn't. But no big deal. So, and then the front wheel will be the same thing. There's two halves, right and left, and I'll put those together. So I'll be back in a minute, and hopefully the seat and the other parts will be dry. Okay, I got the wheels together. So, first one I'm going to put together is the front landing gear, since it's dried enough. Now, as you can see here, hopefully, I got some of my blue tack to cover the spots where paint comes in contact, or I mean where the parts are glued, because there's nothing worse than trying to scrape glue off and not having a good connection. Same there, right there where this part fits, which I also have covered. So I've got nice bare plastic, so when I put it together, if I cement it together, it's going to stick nicely, theoretically. So let's take a look and see. Now on the wheel, there is looks like two sides. There is a side that is larger in diameter. The recess is larger in diameter, so got to make sure that fits. Yeah, and see, this pin here is larger, so got to make sure that's fit in there. This pin here is smaller, so it fits in that side. So you don't do it like that, you risk this stuff not fitting together properly. And looks pretty good. Yeah. Alright. So what I'll do is I'll put a little cement on there, and then I'm going to clamp this to make sure it sets up good. Now unfortunately the wheels don't roll, so once I get done with the jet, I won't be able to play with it or anything, but you know, it'll still look cool. Just kidding, folks. That was a big thing when I was a kid. Parts had to work so I could play with them, but you know, I'm mostly an adult now, so it's no longer an issue. So it's kind of nice. It's a really snug fit, so that part stays in there, so it'll be real easy to glue it together. Yeah, so let me grab a clamp here. Use one of these little squeezy clamps like that, and I'll be using the old Tamiya mostly thin. Okay, so that looks good there, so I'm going to flip it around like that, and then I'm going to take, whoops, be careful there, sport. And I'll take this and clamp it together like that. So as you can see, whoa, my old clamp here. This is kind of a soft plastic here, but I like to take these little rubber anti-skid deals so it won't scratch up your furniture. If you put something on there, you stick them on, that way it sticks, you know, it doesn't slide around, but it also doesn't scratch up the surface. But in a case like this, I like to take, and they're self-adhesive on one side, and stick them on there and then trim them to fit, and they really grip stuff good. See, that's crazy angle like that, but it's all, the rubber's really gripping it. So that's a little tip of the day right there for you. So we'll let that dry up. And then this here, same thing. I've got this here has been like that, so that'll go in there. And man, that's a really tight fit. I don't even think I'm going to glue that. That's a really snug fit, so that's kind of cool. And that will get that part of the landing gear done. Then once I get the landing gear doors painted with the metal color, the bare metal color, then I'll be able to glue those on here as well. Now there's also, and I've got to get them out and bend them all up and get them. So there we go. There's all landing gear parts. So there's some photo etch here that I need to cut off and get all bent into shape, and then it has to be attached as well, and I need to paint that a light gray. So I think I'll cut that off and get it all fabricated like it should be and have that ready to go. And then from there, that will pretty much conclude all of the stuff on these pages here of stuff that needs to be glued on. You know, I still have some parts to glue on, but I'm not going to glue them on there until after I get the metal finish done. So, and then this page here's done except for this. So what I'll do is I will get all the parts cut off for the seat belts, and then take a look at gluing that stuff on. Okay, let's take a look here. I got the seat finished and installed with all of the photo etch. Went together pretty easily. There was a couple of parts on the photo etch that were just driving me crazy. Now the paint or whatever coating or whatever it is that they put on these photo etch belts, whenever I was pushing a piece down and I pulled my tweezers away, obviously, or I suspect there was a little bit of super glue on the tip, so it popped a piece of the paint off. So just I had to dab a little bit on there. And if you have any or have access to, and you're really sweating the color, Model Master acrylic dark gray is an excellent match, and I just happen to have some, so that's why I used to fix it. Can't even tell where it was messed up. So that's done. Now the next thing I did was there's a couple of photo etch parts that go on the inside edge of the canopy. I got those installed, I also glued the, I'm assuming it's the gun sight, in place. That needs to be painted. Once I paint that, then I'll apply the stencils, the mask to the canopy and the front windscreen, and those will be ready to paint. So, and what I'm going to do, since there's no mask for the inside, what I'm going to do is I'm going to mask the outside, make sure the inside is covered up and protected, and what I'll do is I'll paint the cockpit color first, and then on top of that I will paint the exterior color. That way, whenever this is, because this is going to be glued in the open position, at least the inside of the color, the interior color will show through the clear, so it'll look like it's painted like it should be, and then this will be here. But so whenever I paint this, what I'm going to do is I'm going to put the masks on, and I'm going to go ahead and glue this in place, and then using one of the canopies that I'm not going to be using, I'm going to tack it into place to use as a large mask to cover up the cockpit. That way won't get any paint in the cockpit, and then I can just discard this once it's done. But before I get on to all that, the next thing I need to do before I go any further and start really thinking about paint is I need to glue on the pylons. So I'm going to cut the parts off for the pylons and get those ready to go, and put those in place. So here it sits. I got this probe or whatever it is glued on the front. Got the last few pieces of photo etch there, and this one on the bottom, this small part here. The pylons are in place. So basically, I got the front windscreen in place. So basically, what I have to do now is get it all prepped for primer and then paint. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to make a, using some paper, I'm just going to make a cover for the cone area, just slip it into place. Then, as I mentioned earlier, I'll be using this to cover that for paint. I just have to make sure it's snug down in there really well so it doesn't get any overspray inside. I'm just going to tack it on with my Gator's Grip glue, so that will take care of that. Then for the back here, I'll just put a piece of foam inside of that, and then probably use some foam inside here and here and here, and that'll get everything closed up. Then I will at the same time I'll prime this side of these doors, gear doors, and once I get all that primed, then I can move on with the metal finish. So I think what I'll do is I'll call this video quits right here. So when I come back, I'll have everything prepped and ready for primer, and then I'll talk a little bit about that at that time. So as always, if you have any questions or comments, remarks, please put them in the comments below. I'll get back to you as soon as I can. So in the meantime, stay tuned for the next installment, where I'll actually start some primer and then paint. So, thanks for joining me here on Plastic Models by Regular Dude and the viewer's choice build number 2, the Eduard MiG 21 PFM. And I will see you all later.